really think the garden process starts in the fall. Here at the oldest house, we start cleaning out the beds from the previous year, and then we apply our manure, which is horse manure from local stables here. And when spring rolls around, we really just get out there, dig the beds over, rake them, and they're ready to be seeded. This is our seedling propagation unit, and it's here in the back of the woodworking shop at the Gosnell Centre. They start off in little row flats like this, and here you see we've got some teasel taking a little while to show up, and some sweet marjoram and some chamomile. Then as they grow, they are gradually transplanted out into larger flats. Here we have something that has just been removed from a seedling flat. It's summer savory, a beautiful sweet pot herb, and it's in a little, what we call little six packs where it has more room to grow and mature. It's a fairly low-tech setup, anybody can do it. We just have ordinary shop fluorescent lights, a homemade frame, and a place where plants are happy. At that point we have a lot of the seedlings for the beds here growing, and they move onward into a greenhouse, which is like a halfway house for seedlings. This is an unheated greenhouse, so it's essentially a large cold frame, and they are at the point now where they're growing, but they're also getting used to lower nighttime temperatures, and yet they're protected from the wind. So it's a halfway area between the really nice conditions indoors and the conditions that they'll have to face outdoors. We have our onion seedlings, which will be ready to go in the ground in probably 2 weeks. We try to get them in before the end of April, or at the latest the first week of May. We have some cabbage, some Savoy cabbage seedlings, some spinach, and some chamomile. In late April then, we take the seedlings that we've grown, we plant them into the vegetable beds and the salad beds out here. And we'll also at that point sow some seeds directly in the ground. So we've been working hard the past week or so. All the beds are prepped. We've got one bed left to turn over. This is really what they look like right after the winter. We just pile horse manure on in the late fall, in the winter, and we leave the beds just lie like this all winter long. And then in the spring, dig them over, rake them out, and they turn out like that. They're ready to plant. Being a housewife's kitchen garden of around 1700, what we have is a mixture of plants. We have all the perennial herbs in the upper layer of beds here, these beds nearest the house. And these are the familiar lavenders, thymes, sages, rosemary. These beds down here are the ones where the annual plants go, the annual herbs, the annual vegetables. And we just keep cycling through these all summer long. As one crop comes out, another crop will go in. High-tech way of making rows. Just to mark out where we're going. Yeah, I think we'll fit 5 rows in here. This bed is nicely prepared, and so it's going to be the onion bed. We have a sort of an intensive horticulture type thing going back in these times. Space is small, so we get the most we can from the beds. So after we've planted the onions, we'll plant lettuces in between them, and then the lettuces will be harvested before the onions grow to full size. So you're like getting 2 crops in one bed. This will be a bed of mixed salad greens, and some people are surprised to learn that people grew salad greens back in 1700 or earlier. They grew many kinds of lettuces. They grew spinach, they grew Swiss chard, they grew kale, and they ate what they called salads with oil and vinegar. Lettuce was, yes, eaten as a salad, but it was also thrown in the pot, the soup pot or the pottage, so it was also known as a pot herb. In studying garden history, it's been fascinating and interesting. As you go back through history and you study all these gardens and why they were made and who they were made for, it's just wonderful inspiration for the design work we do today. And what's amazing too is how elaborate some gardens were even hundreds of years ago. Everything has filled out just as we hoped it would. Some things are doing better than others, of course, as always in a garden, but we have the herbs that are behind me in bloom. They're so beautiful and decorative as well as useful. And down in the lower beds behind to my left, we have the annual herb and vegetable plots. And they've filled out very nicely. We've harvested already. We'll be harvesting some more this week. And we continue to refill the beds every few weeks anyway with new seedlings. So it's hard to call it a garden at its peak because the garden has many peaks through the season. Well, I'm not sure I have any great tips that will change the way anybody gardens, but over the years I've developed a sort of garden philosophy of keep it simple. Check that the plant is happy, that it's in the right conditions, sun or shade, and that it's getting enough water. Oftentimes, gardening problems go away. Well, gardening in all its many aspects, it can be really rewarding, it's great fun, but if asked what is my favorite thing about gardening, I really have to say it's the downtime. When you're in a garden, whether it's a modern, brightly colored, wonderfully laid out garden, or whether it's a simple kitchen garden, I think, as I weed, I think a lot of gardeners can relate to this, that yes, you're working, but it's your own time in your own space, and to me that's the most wonderful thing about gardening.